So I made an introduction to a new perspective, and I posted it, and started doing some research to bring you some more content from my Hebrew Bible. And I had something else fall on my heart that I need to go ahead and make known or voice, because I understand that my take on this text is going to be different than a lot of other individuals' take on this text. And I understand that there's so much confusion in regards to this text and so much divisiveness in regards to this text that I can't just approach this text straight of heart. I can't just pounce into it blind. I need to, for one, show you who you are. And when you know who you are, it's easier for you to look at this text and see what I'm saying when I say that these characters are just mental states that you occupy. It's easy for you to see how a frequency replays itself in your life of, let's say, a Cain and Abel, right? It's easy for you to see it when I break that story down into you killing a former mental state, or if there is some type of a sacrifice needed or something like that, it is the death or you ceasing to occupy a former state. We can talk about these things. There's so much talk about every story in the Bible as a historical event with innuendos and things placed in there to get you to believe a certain thing based on people that have an agenda. And to be honest with you, I don't really have an agenda. If anything, I just want as much people to know the truth as possible, because I'm tired of trying very, very hard to show unconditional love in a world that it's like, as by default, if you show unconditional love, you're ostracized and hated. Like, I'm really introverted, but in a plea to show unconditional love, like there's been times where I go around and do things that I've been told is what you're supposed to do, like say hello to people, make casual conversations with people. And because of the way that I look, because I started working out, changed my appearance, because I look like this all the time, right? And I'm not chiseled head to toe or anything like that. I'll get there. But man, you start casual conversations with old ladies, and pretty soon they start thinking you want to sleep with them, walking around with shirts Virginia's for lovers only. And here am I, like, damn, man, I can't, in my everyday life, it's difficult for me to actively show love to people. If I start in the circles that I normally had, I do things like lose my job. And then if I try to just find a different avenue or outlet for this frequency that's trying to express itself through me, I feel like I'm less than. This makes me feel like the fullest expression of me. Answering this question makes me feel like the fullest expression of me, or feel like I'm on that path. I'm operating on that wavelength, and all I got to do is ride it up. When we have people who have had the time and the ability to travel all over this world to these ancient sites, who've had the time to read all of these other ancient texts, and the best that they can do is tell us that the Hebrew Bible, which for better or worse is a beloved text, right? As divisive as it is, you could say that this was put in here for this or this was put in here for that. But if you're looking at an effect and an action that an effect has taken, then you're missing the whole point. And even if you understand that the I am is the primary cause behind all effects, if you look at an incarnation or a frequency or a state of consciousness that exists within this infinite mind of God, and say that, oh, because I don't like certain fruit of this frequency, I'm not going to acknowledge the divinity within this frequency and acknowledge that the primary cause behind all things operated behind that frequency. And while there may be truth behind some of the mystical things that have happened, behind extraterrestrials that have come and dealt with us or still dealing with us today, while there may be truth behind witchcraft, while there may be truth behind the entities, the shadow governments, behind the things that control us, it doesn't change the fact that the primary cause of all things is the same God that exists within you and I, the I am of me and you. So we have this Bible that has been in almost since its information has been pulled from the text that it was pulled from. It doesn't matter how far back you want to go. All of those texts I consider, yeah, they're spiritual and everything. But if we're finding truth of a flood, if we're finding truth of our DNA being messed with, if we're finding truth of re-engineering alien aircraft, if we're finding truth that there is a different and our level of intelligence is considered like child's play compared to the civilizations that could potentially be millions of years ahead of us, right? When you look at all that exists within the mind of God, I'm trying to remind you to take it back to that. Because if you forget that we exist within this mind, where to simply think is creative, thought is creative. But if you don't realize that, you don't recognize, for one, if you don't understand the divinity within yourself, then you don't understand what's happening when you have a negative or a hateful thought about someone else. Or when an entity that has attained some level of consciousness and has adherents resonating at its frequency, causing them to take actions that they would not otherwise take in order so that they gain a false sense of status, clout, whatever it may be, or they get some certain needs met, but at the expense of hurting souls. Or the opposite, entities that on the outside look great. I was in an entity that on the outside, and for the most part, it's coming out now, the truth about the entity and the reach that it has. But on the surface, they have a charter of all the major problems going on in the world. This many people are homeless. This many people are hungry. This many people this many people that. But what the hell are you doing about it? You got consultants in every nation in the country, talking to every entity in the country. If you wanted to change something, you could do it overnight. But because your entity is stuck on profits, you won't. And you maintain an image that you're trying to help the world while subjugating your own people. The people within your entity live in fear, overworked. But they don't see that their energy is being drained. And because we don't understand that these thought structures are things that after attaining a certain level of our energy, after draining so much of our energy, attain their own will and exert that influence over us by having us adhere to certain rules. And whether or not those rules make sense or are in our best interest doesn't matter to these entities. So we have all of these things that occupy life within this mind of God, this vast place where anything is possible. And here I am telling you that the I am of you is the consciousness that created all of this. Not your personality, no. And when I'm telling you this, I'm not trying to elevate myself above you. I'm trying to elevate you. So that when you see these paradigms taking place, and when I really dive into this book, not from a perspective of trying to get something out of you, trying to sell something to you, trying to get you to talk to me. I don't give a damn if you talk to me. As I said in the last video, my family's been mobbed for talking about this book. I've had my life threatened for talking about this book. I got PTSD from talking about this book. I had to distance myself, find my own path because of the things that I experienced in regards to this book. So this is personal to me. My mom died with the beliefs that she had about this book. This is personal to me. It means something to me. It meant something to me when I found out that the I am in me is God. And it doesn't matter what I've been through. It doesn't matter what I've seen. I can change something about myself. It doesn't matter what people say about me. I can turn something around. Me. And if I could do that, what could you do? People may actually like you. When you speak, people may listen. You're not me. You haven't been through the things that I've been through. When you show this level of emotion, people don't say that there's something wrong with you, like they say it's wrong with me. So when I say this shit, it's personal to me. And I'm not no damn Christian, nor am I a Catholic or any type of religion. I'm hardly spiritual. All I know is that the God that exists in me exists in all of us. And I see the patterns because I've had to sit back and watch you all and ask myself, how can I fit into this mess that you all created? How can I just be a part of you? I've had to ask myself, why do I feel so separate from all of you? This was the answer to it. So now, when I start to look back at the text, after listening to lectures from people like Neville Goddard, who understood on a different level just what it meant to really be one with the Creator, what it meant to really have Christ consciousness come back and to occupy that state, and to bear the fruit of that state. And now you have all of these people being pulled to his lectures. And I guarantee you that, like me, even now, there's a lot of it that they really don't understand. And it's really unfortunate that we don't have just a pure codex to look at every word, every symbol, every number that aligns with every Hebrew letter. The way that Neville and Joseph Murray, Abdullah had the opportunity to look at it. But this is what I believe. If we all exist within the mind of God, and God is the supreme cause behind all things, and if even in the Bible, even if in other texts, those beings that came here and fucked with our DNA and had us thinking that they are God above the I am that exists in everything, that pulled us away from our spirituality, that pulled us away from our development, and it seems like it was a catastrophe, you have to understand, if God is the supreme cause behind all of that, and if even then they were saying that the I am, or maybe another emanation of them, maybe a incarnation of the I am presence that came to be at a earlier point in time. So when the I am decides that light should be, perhaps that light entity is one of these supreme beings that sees and executes the Lord or the law. But the Anunnaki were even saying, hey, we're going to be punished for this. And now you have texts that talk about these star seeds. People incarnating and being put on a mission here because of the things that they did before to mislead people. And we think that all of this stuff is just bullshit. We think that all of this shit ain't connected. And then you have somebody like me who sees the through line. And I may not understand every single element, but I see the through line. And if you keep your eyes focused on the bigger picture, we live within the mind of God. Within the mind of God, all things exist. From the very beginning of the Bible, when it says, let there be light, in the act of creating light creates darkness. That I am supreme being is not impartial to any particular side. While the universe rewards us for love, because this was all built on the foundation of unconditional love. But this illusion of individuality, which we can say it's illusory, but it's really not. Because if the mind of God is all that there is, and this is our reality, that's the divine paradox in the Kabbalion. The fact that all that appears illusory to you is really not. Take this world as a joke, take it as a holograph and jump off a building, and then tell me that it's an illusion. But when I tell you that you are God, because of this illusory nature of the world, it's hard for you to believe that. It's hard for you to believe that you have the powers to do something like walk on water. Because for you, the only way that walking on water makes sense to you is if you step out onto some pool and you're able to float above the water. It doesn't occur to you that you could potentially be walking on water when you're thrust into a situation that is completely unfamiliar to you. And all you can do is keep your eyes focused on that I am within you. and trusting that that presence within you will see you through it. Not believing that there's some entity outside of you that's going to come and save you. Especially for men, people talk about it all the time, how nobody's going to come and save us. How the onus is on you to take care of yourself. But then you have all these religions that try to get you to see some type of deity outside of yourself. Then you have science that won't even acknowledge the fact that everything is connected through this ether. That if it all started from a single origin point and if we're all connected, what does that say about some of the beliefs that we have about morality? If everybody's fucking each other and doing all this type of shit, why the hell is it that even in the greatest, when it comes to all of this public stuff, we can't really talk about the things that are actually going on, the fruit of the mental states that we actually occupy? And because we try to keep things in shadows, because we hide under the guise of religion and the guise of false spirituality, people out there trying to sell something to you rather than trying to get you to know the truth. You don't see the bigger picture in it. And I'm sick of it. I am. This distortion has caused us to hate each other so much. But I understand that rhythm exists in everything. And the measure of the swing to one direction is a measure of the swing to the other direction. And man, we've been leaning into the swing of hate for so long. And now I can feel the pendulum beginning to pull the other way. And I can feel my part in this. In the small way that I can. Sharing whatever information that I can, regardless of what you think about me. Or regardless how wrong you tell me I am. I don't care. The I am of you is God. And the things that you believe will make themselves true in your world. That's what's fucking us up. The fact that the act of observing creates something to be observed. The fact that thought is a creative thing. It's a creative act. See, if we understood that, when Billy Carson said, oh, he had a meditation against police brutality, where it was about 100,000 people, and they were able to measure a noticeable decline in police brutality? Come on, man, I've written poems about what 100,000 people can do in a meditation, and then I hear something like that? Imagine meditation centers all over the world. Us actually solving problems, not by sitting around talking about them and arguing with each other, not by creating thought entities or pendulums to control us, not by judging previous actions or thoughts that have gone out in the past, but by understanding and having a respect for all that is, having gratitude for the spaces you occupy, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to show love, the opportunity to allow Source to express through you, the opportunity to allow whatever creative gift is inside of you to take form. We act like this shit is a given and that we're gonna be here forever, and we don't see through all of this the impersonal nature of God. Your consciousness will. You will not die. But the state that you occupy, it don't have to be sunshine and rainbows. It can be if you want it to be. There is an infinite amount of hells, just like there's an infinite amount of heavens. And if you don't know who you are, you can traverse hell to hell, thinking that that's all that there is. And if everywhere you look is reinforcing that same sentiment, that hell is all that there is, you think that there's nothing different. So you don't look for nothing different. And all that you're aware of continues to magnify. And your awareness of it just enhances it even more. This shit is personal to me. Because I believe that the information in the right hands with the people who occupy the correct mental state to influence change in a level that all of our lives would be impacted, I believe all they need to know is who they are. And who they are in relation to who we are. Who we all are together. That I am you and you are me. And when I hurt, you hurt. And when I feel joy, you feel joy. And when we all grow, we all grow. And if we all fall, we all fall. If one of us falls, we all fall, man. We can... When we know who we are, that's when we can collectively open this collective consciousness up to the miracles of the Bible. Because at that point, the level of belief would be enough to sustain those types of phenomenon happening in a natural sequence of events, so that we don't look at it as a miracle. To us now, it would seem like a miracle, but to us then, it's just a higher level of knowledge. It's just a normal thing. You got people talking about opening up the flower of life properly, and people complaining, saying that they're crazy just because they got a different perspective. The same way that when people, and the argument's still going on today, when mainstream scientists believed the earth was flat and it fit with the narrative, and then somebody comes out saying, no, the earth ain't flat, and actually, you know what? We all revolve around the sun. These planetary bodies don't revolve around us. So you go from the earth being flat to, nah, it's round. You got planets revolving around the earth, nah, it's the other way around. And now you got somebody saying, oh, these planets are actually created from the sun. Oh, these conscious entities, what we are, we're just the fruit of this solar system. This planet is just peopling in the way that in the proper season an apple tree will bear apples. But here we are, all branches of the same damn tree, cussing each other out because your branch may be a little crooked in a different way than my branch is. If this text is just a collection of states that we occupy, even if it in fragments, because I've had situations in my life appear where it feels like I'm occupying one state, or I've had something happen where it feels like I'm witnessing scripture play out in a certain way, or I'm witnessing a story of scripture play out in a certain way. And then within that same scenario, I'm occupying, or it feels like I'm looking at the fruit of multiple states simultaneously. So I'm going to read Neville Goddard. I'm going to read Joseph Murray, and anyone else, not the people who've looked at someone and said, oh, I want to gather all of the people who look like me who are black, and let's talk about why using this book, these people are wrong. I don't care if you black, I don't care if you white, I don't care what you look like. That's not what my videos are about. I don't care where you been. I don't care how fucked up you been. I don't care if you're 400 pounds. I don't care if you're 115. I don't care if you never worked a day in your life, and I don't care if you work every second that you can. I don't care if you come from a great family. I don't care if you come from a shitty family. And I'm not saying that to shit on whatever you've been through. I know that whatever you've been through was challenging. Why? Because I know my story was challenging. And if the I am of me is the I am in you, and if we're both traversing these mental states to get to this point where we realize that we are God, I can only imagine how troubling it's been for you. But just because it's been troubling for you doesn't mean that we wallow in that, turning our awareness to it so we can magnify and enhance it on a greater scale. Doesn't mean that we repeat it over and over again. What it means is that we seek deeper knowledge by going within. And then when we find that knowledge, we spread it enough to make the changes that are necessary. No matter what people say about you. I didn't intend to get this emotional in this video. I didn't intend to yell at you. And I hope you don't take my passion for some vain ignorance or me trying or some type of pride or something like that. This ain't that. Like I said, from a very young age, my interactions with this book haven't been great. And when I say this book, I'm talking about the Bible. King James, whatever version you want to look at. I look at the Hebrew Bible now. That's what I'm going to be reading from. My earliest experiences, my family getting mobbed for talking about this book. People getting stabbed for talking about this book. Police being sick for calling about this book. Being locked out of our place for talking about this book. Now here I am trying to share this message and dealing with the things that I'm dealing with. I don't care anymore. Nothing's going to hold me back anymore. Because I believe that the I am in me is going to take care of me. I love you. I want to see the fullest expression of you. This is a spark.